So what is DevOps? It's this term that means different things to different people, and it's kind of become this amorphous term that, kind of like the cloud, different people have different definitions. There's lots of descriptions. People talk how they might implement DevOps inside a particular team or a particular process or a particular company, and there's all sorts of ways to look at it. The one description I like the best comes from Donovan Brown of Microsoft. He's a DevOps program manager, and he wrote a post where he talked about DevOps and how he might define it. His quote was, "DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users." I think it's a great definition, and I really like it because the important goal of DevOps, what we're trying to achieve, is that we want to deliver value to our users. That's what we want to accomplish all the time. Doesn't matter who does it, doesn't matter what process we use, doesn't matter what platform, what software, what people. We have to deliver useful, valuable software to our customers. Everything is based on delivering these results. And how we do it doesn't matter. There's different ways to accomplish the goals. You may do something differently than I do. As long as we are delivering value to our customers, that's the best thing. We have to use people. We have to work in a process. We certainly will make choices on products, tools, and platforms. But we put those things together in the way that ensures we do something valuable and produce something valuable for our customers. And that's the goal of DevOps. And ultimately, it involves as much of a change in people and process as it does picking any sort of tool or technology or product. In fact, the people and process change is going to be more difficult, take longer, and certainly be more important than any other choice we make. There's another quote, part of that post that I want to quote as well. And it says that you want to realize DevOps is not a product. Right? You cannot buy DevOps and install it. DevOps is not automation or infrastructure as code. DevOps is people following a process enabled by products to deliver value to our end users. And again, we want to remember as we go through this course that the goal is that we have to deliver something important to our customers. Right? Each part of that definition is very important, and we want to work with it. I'm going to show Microsoft tools, some other tools from other products, other platforms, but we want to use these to accomplish our goal. Doesn't matter what particular method I use. For example, I'll use Git to manage code and version control, and I'll use that to deploy code out to Visual Studio Team services and out to databases. But you could use Subversion, you could use TFS, Perforce, any other tool. You could use Bamboo or TeamCity. Important thing you understand is, how do I store the source code? How do I deploy it to a database? Now, DevOps also consists of different principles. Because it's not prescriptive, it doesn't tell us to specifically use Agile methodology or waterfall methodology or anything else. It's kind of an amorphous definition that we have for what makes up DevOps. Now, there are three principles that Gene Kim wrote about. Gene Kim is best known as the author of the Phoenix Project, which is a book I'd recommend. It's a DevOps story disguised as a novel. He's been an entrepreneur and a researcher. And his goal has been that we want to make software better, faster, and at a higher quality level for our customers. He's postulated there are three principles that will guide us in our DevOps journey. We have systems thinking, we have feedback loops, and we have a culture of continuous learning and experimentation. Let's look at each one of these. In systems thinking, we want a holistic view of the entire system. So that means we go from our architecture all the way through our clients. We look at developers, project managers, testers, QA, operations people, DBAs, everybody. And we want to make sure that the whole system is what we consider as we optimize our process. We don't optimize any particular department, for example, developers or operations. We want to consider the entire system and ensure that our flow of software is as efficient as possible. We don't want to spend more time ensuring that developers produce the best software, but it's not well tested or deployed, or vice versa. We want to make sure that the entire system is optimized. The second way involves amplifying feedback loops. And this is really about passing information back to the left. In fact, it's known as shift left because we want information to move back to the development side as quickly as possible. We want to let our developers know if they're producing valuable software. Is it something we'll use? Does it work correctly? We want to do that. And we do that by amplifying feedback loops. So our operations people will make sure that developers understand the impact of the software that they're producing. Is it being used? Does it perform correctly? But we also want to make sure that developers feedback to operations as well and let them know, is it easy to produce this software? What changes are coming and do we have to prepare for? And of course, we want to cooperate every group in the middle. We want QA to give feedback. We want operations to let QA know they're testing appropriately. And we want to continue these loops as well. And as we get better at our DevOps process, we're going to amplify these loops. So we're going to find more and more signal that's at lower levels as we become more efficient and we become better at building this software. It's important that we find out quickly if there's any part of our design that leads to problems, whether the deployment problems or design problems, so that we can adjust work. We also don't want to do work in development, write software that isn't going to be used. We want to give feedback early and let our developers know if the choices they've made, if the designs they've built will actually work and will be used. The last part of the DevOps principles is the culture of experimentation and learning. Now, this is a part that is very important and probably the most difficult part to put together. We want to ensure that all of our groups are actually trying different ways to build software, trying different experiments, and deciding if they work well. Everybody wants to improve their craft, so we're trying to increase the speed of our feedback loops. So we often see this in DevOps that we want to fail fast, and we want to put out minimum viable products, get features out quickly, make small deployments, and get feedback. We don't want to spend tremendous amounts of time. We don't want these long product cycles where we're unsure of our work, we're unsure of whether things are going to be used. We're actually trying to have very quick experiments, decide if they work, and then invest more in those. I often see this as doing more of what works and doing less of what doesn't. And this is not only in the writing of software, but also the deploying of software and the instrumentation and telemetry that we might incorporate in the operation side of things. Now, typically, I've shown this as a flow from left to right. So all the work goes from development and flows through to operations and our customers. But really, I want to think of this more as a loop. We want a very fast feedback loop. So I've got a diagram here that shows that we're actually kind of going in a flow where our developers will develop software, we will automatically build it in continuous integration or in some other process that lets us determine if the system works or if the software works. We'll validate and test it. We want to make sure that it's meeting our requirements and that it works correctly. We will then package up our software and then release it to our production environments. And that's most of what we'll talk to in this course. We certainly do need to optimize and monitor it in production. We need to do backups. We need to provision environments. We'll touch on those briefly. But for the most part, we're trying to cover this loop on the left side, cover the first part of it, and increase the speed so that we are going through this loop as quickly as possible and developing our software. There's lots of different ways to describe DevOps, certainly plenty of different implementations, different specific choices that we make that accomplish the same results. I'll show you some ways to do things, but keep in mind that you may choose your own methods, processes, people, and tools to accomplish things in your environment. You'll have to discover what works best in your environment and with your staff. Hopefully you'll enjoy this journey.